Hi. There is an interesting concept in transgender theory called the transformation imperative. The writer and philosopher Felix Conrad has written about this quite extensively in his book Transgender, Fetish, Fact or Fiction. And it's probably not a very straightforward issue to unravel, and it's a particularly difficult one to explain to individuals who are unfamiliar with it, because it seems so weird perhaps. But the basic idea is that in a sexual fantasy, a transgender person needs to see themselves either in the role of the opposite sex, or at least taking on associations of that role, typically in dress and appearance. And that raises all sorts of questions, of course. Why, fundamentally? Is it because, at root, their core gender really is, as it were, the opposite to that which the body, the physicality that they inhabit, normally assumes? And that does seem to be the case. Questions around sexual orientation, whether you're particularly attracted to male or female or others on the gender spectrum, play into this as well. And there's no sort of one size fits all. But as a theory, it's one that I can relate to a lot. I think it's probably wrong to say that in my own sexual imagination, I always have to see myself changing sex or being dressed or in some sort of scenario that involves playing a woman. But there's something very fascinating and seemingly magical about the concept of transformation. Sorry, I've got a cat here who's demanding some attention suddenly. I'm not quite sure why. She's just been fed, but anyway. Yes, so where does this come from? Why this sense of magic? This idea that you can sort of perhaps almost click your fingers and suddenly appear in the guise of the opposite sex. Now, I don't think that necessarily means that you want to change sex. It can do. But to appear, to present in that way, certainly is a feature. And to see yourself as a woman, in the case of a male, fantasizing in this way, would be common amongst cross-dressers and those who don't want to transition, who don't want to give up their male sex, as it were, and who see themselves, and probably are in the main, heterosexual in terms of their sexual orientation. So it's something that probably is relevant initially for both those who are the so-called classical transsexuals, those who at a fairly early age realize that they want to change their sex. They feel trapped in the wrong body and they are connecting with something very deep within them. But also with those who are more of the secondary category, those who are cross-dressers who don't. Both would have a drive that this transformation imperative plays a part in. It's a part of the jigsaw. It's a complex puzzle. I doubt that there is one single answer to how it all fits together, but perhaps there is some progress being made in actually building a better picture, so to speak. It may be for the so-called classical transsexual, the person who does feel trapped in the wrong body, if there is such a thing as this core which seems to tell them that they should be, that they want to be in a woman's body, that the transformation imperative opens up the possibility of really becoming the person they want to, with the physicality and also, I guess, the loss of their male sex as well. For the cross-dresser who might conform to at least a part of the theory of autogynephilia, in other words, loving to see yourself as a woman, it may be that the desire is actually very similar, that in reality, for a time, they would like to transform, to actually be a woman, or at least to take on the associations of presenting as a woman and potentially the responses that brings. So that might be based on views of beauty, or it may be to do with some attachment made very early on, some association made very early on in their childhood that appealed, that they saw. For example, for me, I remember when I was growing up, and this is long before I came to sort of sexual puberty and had any kind of sense of sexual arousal. I was probably about 5 at the time in primary school. I admired the long legs of girls playing on the gym frames in the school hall, and I thought that would be rather nice to have myself. So that was an association that later probably got translated into an erotic impulse and cause for excitement and imagination and seeing potential and desire and all those things. This is a topic that Felix goes into quite a lot in his book, I think, very thoughtfully. Maybe it's just about this association with what you see as being beautiful and wanting to emulate, to present that yourself. For the non-transition desiring, if I can put it that way, cross-dresser, which I think is really the category that I'm in, perhaps tempered with a little bit of desire around changing some of your physical features to allow you to pass. But the ability to pass, the ability to be convincing, the ability to be, in your eyes, perhaps beautiful, perhaps feminine, at least to present in the way that allows you to express your feminine self, seems to be very important. It's not just about taking on any female persona or dress. It's about being able to express yourself in the way that feels right and appropriate for you. Anyway, this concept of transformation for me is a fascinating one. It can be seen modeled by others, perhaps in the sort of sense of the way that people relate to role models, pop stars or whoever, and sort of vicariously imagine themselves in those scenarios. So situations where males become, perhaps for entertainment purposes, females are a good example. Probably one of the main examples of that on television at the moment around the world is the Your Face Sounds Familiar franchise, which takes takes celebrities and challenges them to week by week perform in the roles of different music stars, pop stars mainly, and recreate their images and dances and so on. And supposedly this is randomly selected. I'm not sure that it is in reality, and can involve very often changing sex. So there's quite a lot of examples of this transformation magic, which combined with big budgets and television lighting and prosthetics and heaven knows what else, can be very imaginative and creative, showing the possibility, I guess, to those of us who have an interest in the possibility of ourselves transforming, even if only for an instant. So I thought I'd leave you with a few images from that particular program, and also one or two of my own little creations. This is a question that I'm sure I will come back to in a future post, and I'll look forward to reading what others have to say on this matter as well. Bye for now.